You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's ministries. You'll never be the same.
And the point that I'm making is that in everybody's life, at some point, there's a plan B. God is talking to us every step of the way. God is trying to show you something every step of the way. When things seem to be going wrong, that's God's way of opening another door. I am convinced that God has been directing me every step of my life.
On the Word Network. Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
Today I want to talk about making the best of a bad time, the best of a bad situation. And as in all cases, I find an answer in the Bible. If we looked at Genesis chapter 40, verse 8, and that whole passage, what we see is a time where Joseph is turned into prison. He's been thrown into jail for something he didn't do. He's accused of rape, and accused of rape by the wife of the man who hired him. And the man who hired him liked Joseph so much, he didn't kill him. He could have killed him, but he knew, maybe he suspected, that his wife was making up things about him. But in any case, Joseph goes to jail. And while he's in prison, he makes friends with the other inmates. There's some people looking at this program today who are in prison. And some of the best relationships that some people make are when they're in jail, when they're in prison. And in the case of Joseph, he doesn't know when he will ever get out of jail. It's a bad time. But Joseph makes friends with some of the other inmates. And along the way, he starts interpreting dreams. And word gets out in verse 8, chapter 40, verse 8. Joseph tells the people around him, the other inmates, doesn't the interpretation of dreams belong to God? He says, tell me your dreams. You know, some people were troubled by their dreams, and he has good success with them. And the dream, there's a butler and a baker, and he interprets the butler and the baker's dreams in ways that they turn out true. And word eventually gets back to Pharaoh, the Pharaoh of Egypt, that there's a man in prison who can interpret dreams. And the Pharaoh is upset because he's had a bad dream. And in his dream, there's 7 skinny cows and 7 fat cows. And nobody wants to take a chance in interpreting the dreams. Nobody is courageous enough to try to interpret the dreams. They're afraid maybe they might die if Pharaoh doesn't like their interpretation. So word finally gets to the Pharaoh, the king of the land, that there's a man in prison who's had success with dreams. And they find Joseph in jail. They take him out of jail. They wash him, bathe him, give him a new set of clothes. He goes to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh says, I had this troubling dream, but nobody is willing to give me an interpretation or can interpret it. And so Joseph said, well, tell me the dream. And he said, there's 7 skinny cows and 7 well-fed cows. And the 7 skinny cows are eating up some of the 7 healthy cows. He said, what does that mean? And Joseph thought about it for a minute. He said, what it means is that there are going to be 7 good years where there's plenty of rain and sunshine, but there are going to be 7 bad years where there's going to be a drought. And he said, we're already in to the 7 good years. And shortly, the 7 bad years are going to come. And he said, if I were you, he said, make this good period a time where we store up the food, store up the wheat and the grain, so that when the bad years come, we can feed the people. And the Pharaoh likes the interpretation that Joseph makes so much. In effect, he makes Joseph effectively the Secretary of Agriculture for Egypt. But it's a very powerful position. And the Bible tells us that Joseph is so powerful, there's only one person more powerful than he, and that's the Pharaoh of Egypt. And the point that I want to make, and it's a great story because Joseph ends up not only saving Egypt, but his father and his brothers, the same brothers that beat him up and sold him into slavery. Eventually, they have to come to Egypt to be fed. And it is Joseph who feeds the brothers who actually tried to kill him. But the point that I want to stress in this whole story is that, among other things, Joseph has made the best of a bad situation. Joseph was in a situation in jail where he could have served life in prison. Joseph is shut away from society. He's a young guy. He doesn't become the Secretary of Agriculture in Egypt until he's 30. So that means from between the ages of 17 and 30, Joseph is in prison. And those of you who are looking at this right now, I want you to think about that. Joseph has served 13 years in prison. And he was serving life in prison. But in the 13th year, God plucked Joseph out from the prison crowd and gave him an audience with Pharaoh. God gave Joseph a new lease on life. And to me, one of the lessons in this story is that no matter how bad your life is, no matter how shut away you are from society, you should never give up on yourself. So what are the lessons we can learn from Joseph in prison? Number one, Joseph may have been in prison, but Joseph did not let the prison imprison his mind. Joseph did not let jail make his mind a jail. And some of the saddest people in life to me are people who are just locked up emotionally. They are physically free where they can walk. They're free to talk. They're free to invest their money, to spend their money, but their mind is not liberated. And if your mind is not liberated, you can have all the money in the world. You can have all the time in the world. You can have the greatest job in the world. But if you are in an emotional prison, you don't know what to do with yourself. Joseph is an example of a guy who's in a confined space. He's in prison, but he is not confined with his mind. And as long as a person is not confined with their mind, they can imagine a better life. They can imagine a better world. I imagine that Joseph in prison imagined and wondered, what is my father doing with his life now? My dad must be over 100. My brothers who beat me, my brothers who threatened to kill me, my brothers who sold me into slavery, what are my brothers doing right now? What are the people of Egypt doing? What is this culture? I don't know the Egyptian culture. I don't know who built the pyramids. I don't know this culture that figured out how to mummify a dead body. Joseph is imagining all kinds of things. And in the midst of all that imagination, Joseph is also dreaming. And Joseph is free not only to dream, but he's free to help other people with their dreams. And sometimes in life, one of the best things you can do is help another person with their dreams. The men who come to Joseph in prison with these searching questions about dreams that they could not answer, Joseph did not push them away. Joseph didn't shut them out. He didn't look down on them. He didn't laugh at them, but rather Joseph tried to share his gift of interpretation with those men. Not everybody has the gift of interpretation. Not everybody has the gift of prophecy. Not everybody can sing. Not everybody is able to teach. But the good gifts that God has given to you, God wants you to use. Use it for yourself, but also use it for your neighbor. Use your gift to help the poor. Use your gift to help the hungry. Use your gift to help those who are lost. Use your gift for those who are confused. And in the process, something magical happens and God will open your mind. I found in my life, when I don't know what to do, when I'm not sure where to go and who to see and who to speak to, I pick up the phone and I call the sick people in my church. And I ask them, can I come visit you? Sometimes I don't even call them. I just show up. And in the process, 100% of the time, when I go to see somebody who's suffering with cancer, somebody who's had a grievous operation, somehow the Lord blesses me. Somehow, in the process of listening to somebody who's hurting, somehow in the process of praying with somebody who's struggling, somehow in the process of counseling somebody who's trying to grapple with a great question in life, somehow it makes me feel better. And I walk away, I feel like my steps are a little lighter, my heart isn't as saddled down, and I feel better about life. And I tell you, what I have learned in my life is that the more you give, the more you receive. And it's not just money. We talk about money in the church in an offering. We say, give, the words of Jesus. Give and it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. These are the words of Jesus in Luke 6. But it's also true not just in terms of money, but it's true in terms of time. If you give of your time in a positive way, you'll receive time. If you give of your goodwill, you will receive goodwill. I have received so much goodwill from people who didn't know what to do with me. Sometimes people who felt like hurting me or harming me. But the more I smile at people and talk with people, listen to people, try to let people know that they're a quality individual, that God has something planned for them, the better they treat me. And so that's the word that I want to share with you today. This is a new year we're coming into, and why not make this a new you for the new year? And I want you to think about Reuben. I want you to think about Joseph, who has his back up against the wall in prison, but he doesn't let prison imprison his mind. And I encourage you, if you're stuck in your house, if you're stuck with a mean person, a family that doesn't treat you right, try to excel. try to rise to a higher level. And that higher level is what Jesus Christ has extended to us. To reach for the hand of Jesus. Listen for the voice of Jesus. Share the good news of Jesus. And what you will find is that God will give you a new you for this new year. Stick around, and I'll be right back.
America used to be considered a godly country. It doesn't seem to be that way to me now. And I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but it's so many things they're okaying for the wrong reasons. There's not godly reason. People need to really open up the Bible, the Bible, and look in it, and really get it into their heart. And this, the way the Reverend Hood is doing this is a comfortable way. It's not forcing anything on people. It's a comfortable way and a loving way for it to continue to move in that direction.
The way Reverend Hood presents it, you can understand it, and it makes you want to delve into the Bible even more so that you can see more, because it seems like the program goes off too fast. We need the bread of life.
We really do.
These days, we need it more than ever. And Reverend Hood's ministry on TV is giving us our bread.
Today, I've been talking about making the best of a bad situation. And there are all kinds of bad situations. If you're bankrupt or facing bankruptcy, that's a bad situation, but you can make it. Death is a bad situation. And no matter how long we live, no matter how much we've experienced, when somebody you love dies, there's nothing like it. If you lose your job, that is a bad situation. You get sick with cancer, multiple sclerosis, get sick with the COVID. That's a bad situation, but you can make it. And to me, that's part of the value of the Christian life. Part of the value of faith in God is the belief that God will help you through, no matter how bad a situation might be. And I've chosen this message for the new year because some of us start the new year with a burden. And if you are one of those, I mean, sometimes I faced burdens going into a new year. But one of the things I've learned in life is that there's no burden that's so big, so heavy, that the Lord can't help you. And how does the Lord help us? The Lord helps us by freeing the mind. There's the greatest gift God has given you, my friend, is your mind. And as long as you and I are free enough to draw upon the power that is already within us, it's invested in us. God has given you hands to build and to move. God has given you feet so that you can walk and run. God has given us a heart that can beat even when we're asleep, and it has the blood to flow in our bodies. God gives us eyes so that we can see, ears that we can hear, mouths so that we can speak. God has given us all the tools that we need. And this mind that God has given us will help you to figure out what you can't figure out. The ability to listen to other people, to share our problems with, our burdens with. God will open up doors that you cannot open for yourself. And when I think about Joseph in prison in the Bible, Joseph does not let 13 years in jail ruin his disposition. Joseph does not let 13 years of jail mess him up. And when he comes out of jail, he's bigger than life. And sometimes in jail, when you're in an imprisoned kind of situation, you need help. And you need help from somebody bigger than yourself. We have a guy in my church who made a mistake early in his life, in his early 20s. He went to prison. He's a college student. And he's told me, he said, Nick, you know, when you're in prison, at some point, everybody has to fight. And he said, out of the blue, there's a guy who just decided he wanted to fight with me. And he wanted to fight with me. He said, I had never done anything to that guy, never had a cross word with him. But for some reason, that guy wanted to fight. And I said, and how did you get out of it? He said, before we could start fighting, he said, the prison bully. He said, you know, in every prison, there's somebody who's the bad guy, the big guy, who everybody looks up to. He said the biggest guy in the prison, not physically big, but the strongest, the one who had the most respect out of all the other inmates, he said that guy got in between me and the other guy, and he said, don't fight this man. He said, don't fight this guy. He said, because he's different. He said, you and I are here because we have done wrong. We've been bad. We are career criminals. He said, you and I, deserve why we're here. He said, this young man over here is trying to get his life together. He's got a plan. He wants to finish college. And he said, I tell you, don't lay a hand on that guy or I'll hurt you. And I said, did you know that guy, the neighbor, the prison strong man? He said, no, I'd never really talked to him in my life. He said, but the guy was watching me. He said, that guy knew more about me than I knew about him. And what's the point that I'm making? The point is, you don't know where your blessing is going to come from, number one. Number two, you don't know who's watching you. You're just making time, but somebody is looking at you and learning from you. And in the case of Joseph, these other inmates are looking at Joseph. They are learning from Joseph. They are respecting Joseph. And the Bible doesn't tell us what Joseph really thinks about them, other than Joseph obviously respects them. Joseph is treating them humanely, and he's treating them with dignity. He's giving them enough courtesy to basically say, share with me your dreams. Share with me your dreams, and I will help you out. And in the process of helping other people with their dreams, that was the ticket that got Joseph out of prison. And there's a lesson in that. And the lesson, my friends, is that you and I should always be open to help somebody else with their dreams. The poor person who's just trying to get on their feet, help them out. Your neighbor who's confused, help them out. The child who doesn't have a father or mother in the home, help them out. And in the process of just extending a hand to somebody else, what you'll find is that, one, you will feel better, but two, your help unlocks a pathway to God. A pathway to God where God will open up new doors for you. God will lay out a blessing for you, bigger than you can contain, more expansive than you can imagine, more fulfilling than any dream you ever could come up with on your own account. But you can't get there unless you have the right attitude. And that's why I say you and I have to figure out, how can I make the best of a bad situation? And when you make the best of a bad situation, it confounds some people, because they'll wonder, why are you happy? Why are you smiling? How come your face isn't level to the ground? And you know what? You will draw other men and women to you because people want to be around people who look like they have it together. People want to be around people who look like they're headed in the right direction. And even if you don't know what the right direction is, make your decisions based on love. I tell people all the time, I'm not the brightest guy in the world. To be honest, there's sometimes I really don't understand what's going on or what I should be doing, but I have to make a decision. And when I make a decision, particularly in an area or on a subject that I really don't know the full answer, I say, if I'm going to make a mistake, I'm going to err on the side of love. I'm going to err on the side of being sensitive. I'm going to err on being gracious. I'm going to err on being gentle. I'm going to err on being compassionate. And in the process of just taking that simple attitude of love, what I found is that God continues to bless me. God has blessed me, my friends, so much I can't contain all those blessings. I want you, we only have a couple minutes left today, but I want you to think about your dreams. Just like Pharaoh had dreams and the inmates in the prison in Egypt had dreams, think about your dreams. And I want you, if you're comfortable, just write them down or text me or email me. If you call the number that's on the screen, let's see if I can remember. It's 1-800, I think 347, or is it 547-1048. But send that, send me something to that letter, to that phone number, and I won't read it. I will also pray on it, and I will pray for you. Because, all of us need somebody to pray for us. And I'm praying for you. I want you to pray for me. I want you to pray for this ministry. This is a dream of mine that started when I was 24 years of age. And now at 73, this dream has become a reality. And so I need you. I need your help. If you can support this ministry financially, send me a contribution to 4535 Chrysler Drive, that same number on the screen, Detroit, Michigan. But I want you to know I love you, I need you, and I'm praying for you. Share with me your dreams, and I will dream with you. God bless you, God keep you, and remember, I'm praying for you.
Thank you for watching today's program. We hope you've been blessed in a powerful way. Just knowing you took the time to watch today's broadcast is a great encouragement to Pastor Nick Hood. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you, we ask that you mail a tax-free donation to Nicholas Hood Ministries at 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.